Yes, it's been this is kind of the end of our time away from Texas. We left Texas 2.5 weeks ago, and so we've just been enjoying family and going around and visiting various churches, and it's been good. Tiffany's parents have settled in retirement in Marysville, and so we attended a church there, the church they attend there. And then last week, we were at Tiffany's sister's church in Linwood, and then today we visited a church of some folks that we know from our church in Dallas. They came, and they're in Bellevue now, and so that was great. We went to church with them and then had lunch with them as well. And this is the first time the kids have gone around with us in a while. Usually they're with Grandma and Grandpa, but they wanted to see it. I don't know if they realize this is where they began. This is where we got married in August of 2002. So this is kind of how everything began, was right here. So just to let you guys know about that. But as we were talking this afternoon, actually at lunch, with the folks that were with us in Dallas, that went to church with us in Dallas, he's actually a Ukrainian. And so I wanted to start with just a psalm, and he's actually Russian Ukrainian, but he lives here. And so he has families actually they fled Ukraine now, and they're here. But just the psalm, and it kind of ties into what we do and why we do what we do. But in Psalm 46, and just thinking about the Ukraine war, God knows about that, and God knows everything that's going on around the world. And it says, He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. And so there's a lot of things going on around the world. We've been excited to be in different churches. And I think the action is where the church is, and also where it isn't, but it will be someday. We read in Revelation, as you're all aware, that there will be people from every tongue, tribe, and nation. So there will be people from all different ethnicities. And so that's what kind of drew me, and I think Tiffany, to Christar as well, is that Christar is all about planting churches among the least reached. And the kind of our little slogan now is for the sake of the not yet church. And so I'll leave a couple of these. It's just a brochure that Christar's put out about what's going on. And so for the sake of the not yet church, but there are areas that God says people from every tongue, tribe, and nation will come to him. And so that's what gets me excited. When we started, so we were married in 2002, we went to Morocco. I can say that, we're in America now. Sorry, I forgot, we are online. But we were there for about 6 years, and I enjoyed teaching English and talking to my friends, but I realized there that I really do enjoy administrative work. I mean, Tiffany, that sounds totally boring to her, and her eyes gloss over. But I do have the gift of helps, and I enjoy working behind the scenes. And so it was there where I learned some of that, just working in the church, just counting money and being for the international church there. And so in 2010, when there was an opportunity, actually, God moved us on and took us out of Morocco. An opportunity arose in Dallas, Texas, where we are now. And so Christar moved to Richardson, Texas. And I should say, actually, I'm going to back up. I'll try not to get into the details too much, but I think it's kind of exciting. I'm giving the big picture, and then Tiffany will share. She does more day-to-day work with least reached, but I'm excited about Christar and what they're doing. So in 2005, they decided to go international. Before, it was just Christar, International Missions, and became Christar. We decided to go international. What that means is to have different sending centers around the world. And Christar we're with Christar, what is it? It's the Christar Mobilization Center US. And that's what our goal is we raise up American workers to go to the field. But since 2005, 2010, it kind of picked up. I think the Philippines started then. So there's a mobilization center in Philippines, meaning they're raising up Filipino believers to go out and they work in the Philippines and also around the world as well. And Filipinos are, I don't know if you know many Filipinos, everyone that I know, especially there's a guy in the office who's especially Filipino, but they're just friendly people. And God uses them, and I think they're incredible evangelists. And so God's using that in Christar in the Philippines. He's also developed, and there's one in Canada, and then we have one in India. It's struggling. You can pray about that. India itself is struggling. God knows, but you can continue to pray for India. We have one that just started in Europe to raise up workers to go to the feet, to facilitate sending churches and helping them to get people to the field. So that's kind of the big picture of Christar. And what I do, I'm in the finance department, and Tiffany really rolls her eyes then. So basically, my job, I started out there for the first 5 or 6 years in donations, so processing all the checks, all the ACHs. I know in 2016, we went to a new computer system, and my hair, whatever I had, that disappeared that year. That system is pretty much up and running now. And the good thing about that is before I would have to send ACH donations to the bank twice a month, every month. I mean, so I needed to be around the office either the 5th or the 25th or the 20th. Well, now that's all automated. The online donation system is working mostly without a glitch. There's always, every time you have a computer, you have glitches. But that frees that up. So basically, we just have check donations and stock gifts and some other things that we process in the office. And we have a part-time employee, Victoria, who does that. So I still print the receipts and I help Victoria. She's actually from Mexico, but she worked in a bank there. She's great with numbers, so she's good at doing that. I mean, I kind of oversee that, but she does that. So most of my time is I'm approving expense reports, just making sure for workers so that we can reimburse them, just making sure that they're valid expenses and it's not just, the weekly coffee. I know coffee is important, but you can't do just coffee and it's an expense. So expensing, or just making sure that expense reports are repaid, and I work on the taxable side. I don't do the salary. The treasurer still does that, and I'm getting to the prayer request, so that's the big thing, is our treasurer is about to retire. He's 68, and his goal is 70. He'll be retired by 70. He does all the salaries, and which could be straightforward, but there's always exceptions, and all the little details are in his head. And so this year, we're in the process of transitioning to having it more, we're going to outsource that. So we'll still tell them what to pay. And so I'll still need to understand that. But that should help that process. And it won't be just with Richard. The thing in the finance department is if Richard gets hit by a bus, who can take over? And if I get hit by a bus, so we try to be a little redundant, but still there's only things that he knows in his head. I mean, but not that we plan on get hit by buses, and we do stay on the sidewalk, but we want to be not, so specialized that if something happens, it doesn't go on. So I'm very content in the home office. By nature, I don't like change, but I do admire Christar, and God's a creative God, and so we are a creative agency. But we do have rules, and so I like that in the finance. So I'm do well in the finance department. Is there anything, Tiffany, do you want to fill up? So my biggest prayer request is, so there's 5 of us in the finance department, and 3 out of the 5 are going to be retiring. Actually, Victoria's part-time, so there's 6. But 3 out of the 6 will be retiring they're all within 6 months of each other. So then it's the accountant, the treasurer, and the administrative assistant who knows the whole department. Basically, she's a secretary, but we all know secretaries usually do all the work around the place. They know all the ins and outs. So you could pray for a replacement. I'm certain I'm not the replacement, and they know that. I'm not gifted in that, but I would love to continue to assist to the abilities that God's given me to help the treasurer. So that's my biggest request, is pray within the next 2 years or so that the next people can rise up and be trained. And we are, because we're creative and we are going to creative access countries, we're still working out a detail of, we have Christar and we pay our Christar missionaries, and doesn't say Christar on their payroll, but it's easy to Google and get information on what Christar is. We're trying to have missionaries who go out who are professionals, who are like doctors, or who are setting up a business, that they can get their funding, but it won't say Christar. And I'm not in those meetings, but the leadership are doing that. And we've had some starts and stops, and that, you could just pray for that. It's called 3 streams, just 3 different sources. There's the traditional missionary, where you don't have to worry about being called a missionary to get into a country, which isn't most of Christar's work is in other countries, although we do work with refugees in existing countries that allow missionaries. But there's the traditional, and then there is the marketplace, so professionals, so teachers or doctors or those sort, who can get a job in Saudi Arabia, but they don't want to have Christar associated, but they still want to have the support that Christar can provide, member care, and help churches keep them in good shape. And then the third one is like a business, setting up a business. So it's not you're not a professional, but you're setting up a business. I think the common word is business as missions. So that's kind of a third stream. And it's all still, creativity is great, but I'm in finance and we like details. And the details are still being worked out on that. So you could pray for people who are retiring and moving on. And then the 3 streams, you can pray for that. And you can just pray, I do enjoy my job in the office, but I do need to get out more and have more opportunity. And there are opportunities in Richardson to work, to meet immigrants from around the world who speak English. I don't have to, they love when I speak a little Arabic, but especially with international students that come in. So you can just pray that I have wisdom in that, as well as being a band parent and help with logistics. That's a great opportunity to work with parents who, some are believers, but most of them aren't. And just pray as I interact and help move band instruments onto the field and off the field every week, and get my workout and interact with non-believers. And now Tiffany's going to share a little bit about what she's doing, and I think she'll wrap up the kids. It's been a good year, a challenging year, but good.
Yeah, so we are with Christar. That is the name of our mission agency. Bart works there 40 hours a week. That is his job. All of our support for me still comes through Christar, but I have my shirt here. I actually spend all my time with For the Nations Refugee Outreach. I'm seconded to them, which they are just a local agency. From my house to the headquarters is 5 minutes. It's that close to where I live. I run into the people I work with in the grocery store. And so I really like the fact that I'm working there. I'll talk about the kids in a second. I'll get to them. So I work with For the Nations Refugee Outreach. I'm trying to remember, I started when Jasmine was in kindergarten or first grade. I think it was in kindergarten. So as a stay-at-home mom, all of a sudden I had no kids at home, and I had all this extra time. So I volunteered a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And it's just more and more. There are actually 3 of us ladies whose husbands work in the Christar office, but none of us want to work in an office. And so we've all been overseas, and we work with For the Nations. My primary job is to be an English teacher. And this last year, since the last time we came, what huge things have happened in this world? Anytime anything really bad happens in the world, about 2-3 years later, we see the refugees coming. The big thing for us, we are not seeing Ukrainians because Ukrainians come with money. They're like, okay. But the big thing for us was Afghanistan. Afghanistan fell. And so we saw a huge wave of Afghans. When I started working with them, you started a huge wave of Iraqis and a huge wave of Syrians. And we always get people from Congo and Rwanda, a steady stream. These folks have been in refugee camps sometimes for 10, 15 years, and they're just sitting, waiting for a visa. And so a huge wave of Afghans. And So this last year, I was the lead teacher for one of the 2 ABC English class. And ABC English is beginner, beginner, beginner English. We have people who come in who can say hello, and they can say, what is your name? And they know that, but where are you from? They don't know that question. I mean, it's that beginner. And because almost all of them are from Afghanistan and from a few other places, except for 1 or 2 students in my class, none of them had ever been to school, ever, in any language, ever. This was their first time to learn to read and write. And when you have that, it makes it so much harder. Like when Bart and I learned Arabic, we'd make flashcards, English on one side, Arabic on the other. They can't do that. So people ask, how? How do you do that? Well, we have a great curriculum. It's a secular curriculum. It's just reading and writing that's specifically for adults. So it's not little kid stuff. It doesn't talk down to them. But you have a picture of a baby and then a letter B, and it's baby, baby, as they learn to write. And some of them have never held a pencil. Like literally, they scribble some stuff, but they've never written. So you have to get them to make it small and learn. And then but when you start from nothing, you see progress really fast. So in the beginning, most of these students did not know how to read and write at all. And at their end, they're reading paragraphs, simple paragraphs. There are a lot of things. We teach very phonetically, but it's just so encouraging. It's so encouraging to see them learn so quick. And then one thing I love about For the Nations is it's 4 days a week, 2 hours a day, and the gospel is preached every day. And one thing that they learned with our class, the ABC English, if they're in with everybody else learning the Bible lesson, they don't understand a thing that's going on. So they just sit in the back and mess around and distract everyone. So they decided to have our class stay put and someone come to us and teach a simple Bible lesson. In the beginning, they still don't know what's going on, but we try to have pictures, we try to do this, and as they go on, and we give them a piece of paper, and they read back to us, and they still don't know what's going on, but at the end, they're able to pick out words, and they're hearing for the first time Bible stories. It is just fun. It's fun, and it's encouraging, so much so, at the beginning of the year, my class had 25 students, that's as many as we could fit in a room. My co-teacher in the afternoon had 25 students, and I had 40 people on my waiting list, and she had 30 people on her waiting list. And the need was so great. So at semester, they started another class. And so next year, I'm going to teach twice a day. We'll try to do that. That'll make me twice as busy, but the need is just there. So many people are just longing for English. And one thing, if you've ever learned a language, you get to a point where you can sort of get by, and it's easy to kind of get lazy. These students can't get by, and so they're eager to learn. I have one student, a grandma, and I have all these women who seem like they're older and they're grandmas, but when you get married at 14 and your daughter gets married at 14, you're a grandma by 30. So, they see my gray hair, but my kids are still in high school, and they asked me about Jasmine. Well, is she married yet? It's like, no, she's 14. I'm like, yeah. So this woman, I thought she was 70 and she's probably 55, but never been to school in her life. And her husband's like, why do you always go to school? Because she has aches and pains and arthritis and diabetes. She said, I love school. I love school. I just want to learn. It's so exciting. Another one of my students, I have her and her mom in class, and both of them got married at 14. So her mother, who has an 8-year-old grandchild, is younger than me. She wasn't allowed to go to school, and she is so enthusiastic to learn. She always comes, what does this mean? She'll show me pieces of paper. I want to learn. And over the summer, can I please learn? It's just thrilling. And because they're giving these Bible lessons on a little basis, and because I have a few Christians in class, people from Congo, Rwanda, and Ethiopia, most of those are Christian, a lot of them Seventh-day Adventists, but they know a few of the stories, and we make sure to say the name in English and usually the Quranic name. This story is about Joseph. In the Quran, it's Yusuf. Like, oh, okay, we know that guy. So they're a little bit more willing to listen because they realize the name is the same. Adam is the same. Eve is Hava. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll listen because it's someone they've heard of. And it's just exciting. But it's it's difficult as well. Their needs are great. In the summer, we stop in programs for adults, and we have programs for kids, so I'm missing 2.5 weeks of it. But the day I come back, we're getting in, our plane gets in at midnight, and I have to teach the next day. Some of the kids, the trauma that these kids see, you know, you're just like, aren't they thrilled to be in America? Well, yeah, kind of, but they've seen death. They've seen horrible things. They've experienced horrible things. I have a girl in my class who, she was 10, and she didn't know how to use a swing. She had never used a swing, and she's just quiet. And I wonder, oh, God, what has this girl seen? Just praying for her. You know, it's tough. Another girl that I know will be coming, her family, you know, you hear about all the people who come to the border, and everybody's afraid, oh, the people at the border. Well, her family came to the border because they were in Afghanistan, but unlike all the other people who were evacuated, her father did not work for the U.S. military, so they were not be able to be evacuated. But her mother taught girls, which the Taliban hated, and her father, even worse, was a divorce attorney for girls who were forcibly married to Taliban members and were abuse victims, and so he helped get them out. So they really hated him, so they had to flee, and the only visa they could get was to Brazil. So they got a visa to Brazil and then walked. Mother, father, 4 kids, mom is pregnant. Walked from Brazil to America. You hear about the trains of people coming. These are people coming, then got to the border and said, this is our situation. They said, okay, you can come here and apply for asylum. And this 12-year-old girl is going to be in my class, knowing that she walked from Brazil earlier this year and has only been in America 2 months because they were so busy helping people, and the Taliban hated that. So this is heavy stuff, but it's so encouraging that they're here now. And especially when I see women, and I see women that were not allowed to read. And I think, you know what? We have them, and the Taliban cannot have them back. We're not giving them back. And we're going to teach them about Jesus. So it's wonderful what's going on. So again, Bart is behind the scenes. It's hard to make his job exciting. But if he didn't do his job, none of the rest of us would get paid, including the Prouts, including us. You know, people have to do that. But I'm very glad that living in the same neighborhood, we can be there. So as for the kids, I will not make them talk because I love them and respect them. But what's going on with them, we're a family we're very committed to public schools and being in the public schools, but it's been hard even in the Bible Belt finding Christian friends. We've been praying for years. Jasmine went to a new high school this year. She joined the band, and right away, and she's a percussionist. She does marimba and xylophone, that kind of stuff. Her closest friend there is the daughter of a missionary kid who was raised in Lebanon, Arabic speaking. Praise God, woo! And Joey doesn't have any Christian friends, but they're very involved in their youth group in our church. His friends are Muslims. He's kind of drawn to Muslims. So during Ramadan, they would joke about stuff, and they just had their big holiday, and they texted him and said, okay, we're your Muslim friends. You need to give us $500. Like, no, I'm not going to give you money. But it's been a real blessing for them. This has been a good year. Last year was kind of rough, but this has been a good year in school. Joey's a senior, 1 more year. He's actually thinking about being an Arabic minor, maybe. We're hoping to go to Morocco next summer. We haven't been back in a long time. So God has been blessing our family. Before I forget, in the back out there by your VBS stuff, we did bring a Cristar mug, and we like to bring treats from other countries, so we have a bunch of candy from Turkey. That we bought it in Edmonds, but I don't know. You don't have a whole lot of Middle Eastern stuff in Kitsap County, so go ahead and help yourself to some candy. Prayer request for me. So Bart's prayer request is praying for all the people who are retiring, and it's a big deal. This is a mission agency, not a business. So our desire is that people who are currently a missionary that's supported will be raised up to take those places. Otherwise, we will have to hire people, and everyone you hire raises the administrative costs for the people out on the field. They have to raise extra support, and we don't want that. And so the desire would be that. The prayer request for me is that God would give me wisdom and physical strength as I teach double, starting in the fall, and that God would really work in the hearts of all these refugees, both believer and unbeliever. Some of the believers are getting good Bible teaching for the first time. Some of their churches are kind of in teaching, so it's that God will use that. But we have some time for questions. We wanted to open it up for questions. Bart, you want to come up here? Huh? Oh, yeah, it's time to pick colleges. In Texas, the date to start applying is August 1st. So our kids are smart. We're smarty pants. It's fine, but wisdom in choosing a college. That would be another prayer request for our family, for Joey. So are there any questions about Christar or for the nations or what we do or refugees or expense reports? I'm sorry, his job is so important. It's just mine's a little bit more fun to talk about, but I try in my prayer letters. No questions? Oh, yes? Oh, yeah, actually, I forgot to say that. So I'm going to challenge you. If you would like to, think about this. People want to go on some big, exciting foreign mission trips. Come to Dallas. I would love you to come and to volunteer in my class for a week. There are ways you can volunteer. If you want to volunteer with kids, you can come, but we could use all the volunteers we can get. I have steady volunteers, but especially the lower level you get, if you can have like 4-on-1 as opposed to 10-on-1 helping them, it will open your eyes to the kind of people that are coming to America and their needs and how wonderful they are. We would love to have you come. As long as you contact us first and make sure the timing is right, either yourself or as a team from the church, you can be used. One not so big secret in missions is that a lot of short-term trips are primarily to encourage the people who are going, not to actually be helpful. Some short-term trips almost do more harm than good because the missionaries are so busy taking care of the people who come. But if you come and volunteer with teaching English, you will be useful. You will actually help, and you will be blessed as well. So I would love it if any of you, either on your own or with a group, if you would want to come in the summer and help with kids. It can be a life-changing experience. And we have people who volunteer all the time and people who fly in. We have short-term groups from all kinds of colleges and come because it's just so exciting.
Well, and we had one from Faith Community.
Yeah. Our home church is Faith Community Bible Church in Bremerton, and they sent a couple of teams down to help with refugees. Yeah, Corey?
Our church people can contact me so I can get a hold of you and talk about arrangements.
Yeah.
And I can get an idea if anybody's interested and how many there would be and who.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you wanted to do this officially, you absolutely could. But again, coordinate, because sometimes they have like a whole. There will be weeks where we have 20 volunteers come and weeks where there's nobody and there's one teacher and 23 preschoolers who don't speak English. So it'd be nice if it was evened out, or if you just, as yourself or your family would like to come down, think about it. I'm just throwing this out, but think about it because it's actually helpful, it's very interesting, and it's not that hard financially. It's just Dallas. So. Was there another question?
Oh,
okay. Any other questions? Yes?
I know my son has opened his home to host refugees from Afghanistan, and it's mostly Muslim, but there's also Christians mixed in. Do you see that with what you guys are doing, or it's all Muslim?
It's very encouraging when we hear stories of Afghan Christians, but they are a small percentage. I know, you all know, do you know Sunset Bible Church in Tacoma? They're really hooked up with like a group of Afghan Christians trying to bring them to America. Some of them got visas to Canada, but they are a small percentage of that. They're a hard people to reach because if you accept Christ, your whole community can go against you. And we've heard stories. I tell this on live stream. I think it's safe.
I can share.
Well, yeah. There have been stories of people people thought, oh, you must be a Christian because during the Bible time you're actually paying attention and not working on your phone, and they start getting flack for actually paying attention, when in reality they are. I mean, if we're very careful about not outing people before they're ready, because a lot of times they haven't even fully believed yet; they're just interested. But it's still but it's safer here than in Afghanistan. Yeah.
But one positive I get to hear, other than just seeing expenses, is I hear a little more about what's going on around, and Tiffany's aware of it as well. But we have a guy he's based in Kansas City, and he and his family were in Tajikistan, and they got kicked out. And they were in Istanbul for several years, and then for health reasons, he's back in Kansas City. But he speaks Tajik really well, and he knows some Farsi and some of the so Farsi, that's Iran, and then some of the Afghan languages. I don't know if it's well, but so what he's done, especially during one of the positives of the pandemic, is just using Zoom, and so he has regular Zoom Bible studies with Afghans, and I mean they're usually different groups, but I mean, and there are believers. I mean, it's a community, and then usually the last 2 summers he's gone back to Istanbul, and he connects with them physically, and just basically just kind of listens and encourages them, but they keep in touch with the Zoom, and so it's incredible. I mean, that was one really big positive, is just the connections through. As much as we hate Zoom, and it does help sometimes.
Any other questions? Hey, we want to thank you. You've been supporting, we got married in 2002, and you've been supporting me before I got married for probably 3 years before that, when I went to Pakistan as a single missionary, or 4 years before that. So we have a long history with this church, and we're very grateful for your support and for your encouragement. Thank you again, 20 years later, for lending your church for us to get married. That was a blessing. Yeah, and we would love to see you down in Dallas if you ever want a little adventure without having to get a passport. Yeah.
Summers are open, but I would recommend like spring or fall.
Summers are lovely. It was 106 when we left. Come on down. It's great.
All right. We're so thankful to have you here tonight. We're going to take up an offering. If I could get a couple volunteers to pass the plates, a couple young men. All right. Thank you, guys. If I could have a volunteer piano player, not to mention any names. Just kidding. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the Carnefix family. We thank you for their faithful service to you, and we thank you for how long they've been a blessing to us. We pray that you would use this offering now for your honor and glory to be a blessing to them. Pray in Jesus' name, amen. Continue to pass the plates. Just want to offer an invitation for you to come join the crowd over at the Eddie's farm for the s'mores, volleyball, frisbee. I don't know what all they do out there. They do a lot, mostly volleyball usually, I think. And so that's still going on tonight, even though Carol is in Spokane. All right. And so you're welcome to attend. You guys are welcome to come too if you'd like. All right. With that, you are dismissed.